Emily. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Great. It's an honor to have you in our podcast. Hello, viewers. This is another day, and we have a very important personnel in our podcast today. His name is Emille Bryant. So, welcome everybody to our podcast. This is where we talk about leadership, innovation, personal growth, business transformation, and the people creating meaningful impact around the world. I'm your host, Phoebe. Today, I'm excited to welcome Emille Bryant. Emily is the president and founder of Go IKIGAI LLC, where he helps business owners, executives, and key decision makers discover or rediscover their Ikigai. Through this process, leaders reconnect with the reason why they wake up every morning and the reason their business exists. From there, Emily helps organization create what he called sustainable pursuit of success, inspired by Earl Nightingale, timeless definition of success. He says success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Emily, welcome to our podcast.
You caught that Earl Nightingale quote, and I built an entire philosophy around that quote. So thank you for bringing it out. No one really dives that deep into my stuff. So
Okay.
the Emille Bryant way of seeing the world is really different, and the success being the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
Mhm.
Every word in that phrase means something to me, and that's one of the ways that I think we're going to have a great discussion,
Yes.
because you're going to share with people how such a quote can transform their lives as well as the way their business runs.
Yeah. Okay, today, because of the excitement and what you bring, I'm going to be unconventional with you.
Yes, let's
No
go.
restriction. I'm going to be unconventional with you. So I'm not going to, as ready as, I'm going to, as long as you're ready, you say, I'm ready. Usually it's about 30 to 45 minutes, but I can see you have a lot on the table. So let's dive in. So I'm not going to be conventional this time. I'm not going to put other frames. No, 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 no. Let's dive in. Emily, let's start with your story. What first introduced you to the concept of Ikigai?
So I lived in Japan for a few years when I was in the military, and
Okay.
that was probably the most profound introduction to the concept. Now, when I was there, I didn't know the word, but I saw the word in action. I saw people living Ikigai.
Mhm.
So it became something of it was a mystique that I was trying to understand when I saw how much dedication as a culture Japanese people put into whatever they're pursuing, whether it's hip hop or bonsai trees or karate or computer science. They were just totally invested in it. And I'm like, what is this beautiful aspect of the culture?
Mm.
When I came back from Japan and after I left the Air Force, I wrote my first book, Start with a Sparkle, and I chronicled how I found my Ikigai. And that's when I went back to my time in Japan and was able to see it for what it is. The concept and the word, it all became one to me. And I was able to contextualize what I saw, what I experienced in Japan with what I was learning as I wrote my book.
Okay, awesome. So, what was there a defining moment when you realized purpose was more important than achievement alone?
Oh, yeah. So I've always been someone who looked at process over product,
Mm.
and I wasn't always that way. There was a time in my life where I really wanted to be, get the A in school or be the number one at whatever I was trying to do. But I was never competitive enough to pursue that as a lifestyle. It was like I wanted to be number one in a very sort of temporal way. Maybe it'd come, maybe it'd go. But when I really started to value education, learning, and process, I was at the Air Force Academy. And one of the things that I learned while I was there was that the more experience, the more breadth, the more knowledge that I got about more things around the world, the better I related to the world around me.
Yes.
That became the linchpin to understanding that my reason for being wasn't singular. It wasn't a one track sort of, like obsession, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, where they just dedicate untold hours to their craft. And it's a very specific pursuit. I am not that person. I want to know everything I can know about everything. I want to know about the world around me. And purpose is one of those things that gave me a lot of comfort, knowing that my reason for being was to help others grow into their best self. So
Yes.
all of my context was easily understood, because then when I relate to people, I can always find common ground. I can always find an analogy that helps them learn or grow into the principle that best serves them. That was, for me, going from a specialist to a generalist, the most profound way I could express my purpose.
Awesome. That's very great. So why do you think so many accomplished people lose connection with their purpose?
So it's easy to be distracted. Let's be very clear about how this society and this economy reward success.
Hmm.
So first, it's almost always that someone else defines success for you. Your family, your church, your social group, your school. They will always define success for you. So if you were to take my course, Awaken to Brazen Creativity, one of the things you learn is that we've adopted someone else's barometer. The
Yes.
barometer of success, which measures, barometers measure pressure, not temperature. This is a very important distinction, because the barometer of success always, when you're younger, is get the gold star in school, get the A in school, go to church regularly on Sunday or masjid on Friday, or whatever that measure of success is, but it's almost always given to you.
Yes.
Very rarely is it intrinsically developed. And so this concept of finding your way based on someone else's measure of success permeates our business environment.
Yes.
We have KPIs that tell us, oh, if you do this thing, then you're successful as a manager or leader. If you hit this mark as a measure of merit, then your team flourishes or gets rewarded with a bonus. And so we have all these external indicators of success, but rarely does anyone sit down and say, okay, I've done everything that I was asked to do.
Mm.
Is my life truly fulfilling? And we find out that people lack a deep fulfillment with their lives, despite the fact that they hit all of these markers that were told to them as success. So now there's this divergence.
Yes.
And that's the problem that we're seeing in our modern society, in my opinion, is that there are a lot of people who are dissatisfied, although they've achieved everything they were told should be success.
Okay, that's great. So many people spend years chasing success only to discover they still feel empty. Why does that happen?
So as I was talking about, that empty feeling comes from not knowing what success is for you, the individual.
Yes.
So this is where I get to flourish as a consultant, and I'm also a leadership coach, an executive coach, a team coach, organizational change agent. I have lots of different titles, but one of the things that I do as a consultant is I really force people to slow down and ask what success looks like for them. And I'm going to ask why you chose that measure of success.
Yes.
So for some people, it's like getting a Bugatti Veyron or some exotic car. And I'm going to ask, why is that? People say, well, I've always wanted one since I was 13 years old, ever since I saw my first Lamborghini. All good. But I really want you to examine why those things, that measure is your measure. Because when you examine that, what you're going to find out is that a lot of times what we said we wanted was actually fed to us by the things that influenced us in our formative years.
Yes.
So now we got to get away from that as adults, and we have to ask, like, for me, my measure of success every day is having a conversation like this. Seriously. If I have one conversation like this every day, that day was a phenomenal success.
Yes.
I don't need a number in my bank account. I don't need a car in my driveway, a house that is, I own, for me to feel successful. I can feel successful by having a conversation with someone random at a restaurant, on a podcast, on the metro. Those are things that are very important to me personally. And that's where I think we're feeling so empty, because that personal definition of success hasn't really been examined and really been pursued with all the energy one should have.
Yes, awesome. That's very great. You've embraced Earl Nightingale's definition of success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Why is this definition so powerful?
So if you break down this phrase, right, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. There's four words that we really have to go in. First of all, it's progressive. That means it's ongoing, and that
Yes.
there's some sort of acceleration, upgrade, movement toward,
Yeah.
right? That progressive means that you're not standing still, but more importantly, you're not just not standing still, you're growing, you're
Yes.
improving, you're expanding into something greater. And then realization means that there's a vision that you're supposed to have. There's something to which you aspire,
Mm.
right? So the progressive realization part of that phrase is super important because it gives us the motivation, the intrinsic motivation to
Yes.
keep going and keep
Yes.
going. There's no such thing as the finish line when you're talking about the progressive realization.
Yes.
Then you go into the worthy ideal. The worthy part is something that is worth your time,
Mm-hmm.
your effort, your attention, and your money. I call that your team, right? Your team, your time, energy, attention, and money. Time, energy, attention, and money. Sometimes I say time, effort, attention, and money. But the things, those four things, when you call them your team, that's what you're harnessing every day. So of course it should be worthy. Of course it should be something that if you're going to take time away from your family, it should be worth that sacrifice. If you're going to take time away from your business, it should be worth that sacrifice. Even if it's purely for joy. I collect comic books. If I'm reading a comic book, it's purely for joy. That is still an intrinsic motivator. It's still a worthy something. It's worthy of the sacrifice I'm making for not doing something else with it. And then finally, ideal. When we say ideal, we have to be very clear. It's lofty. It's almost fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's all that's why progressive realization of a worthy ideal, something that if you were to get to that point, you'd be superhuman,
Yes.
right? And we'll never get there.
Yeah.
But at least we have that North Star that keeps us focused on the direction we're trying to go. I
Awesome.
cannot emphasize enough for people that a definition of success that includes those four components will leave you fulfilled by the end of your life.
Awesome. So again, how can someone determine whether they are pursuing success or simply pursuing approval?
So approval comes from external sources, right? So you're looking for your spouse or your children or your boss or your teacher or, your priest or your, imam or your sensei. You're looking for some external force to tell you that you are acceptable in their sight.
Yeah.
And that feels good. I do not want to discount that. But that cannot be the sole motivator of behavior. We have to be willing to ask ourselves, am I fulfilled with what I chose to do today? Did I give my best effort in the thing that I said I would give my best effort in? I'm not expecting everyone to give all out everything to every endeavor. Some things you just, unless the lawn is your jam,
Mm-hmm.
mowing the lawn does not require 100% of your focused effort, right? Get the lawn mowed, edge it, make it beautiful, but it doesn't require that in that deep, deep, deep rich.
Yes.
Now, if your spouse says, honey, I love what you did with the lawn, that's approval.
Yes.
But when you say, my lawn looks good today, that is what we should be striving for all the time, that I feel great about the work that I've done, because that's what I chose as my measure of merit. So approval is external. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to say it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that we shouldn't hinge our self image on
Yeah.
it.
Okay. That's very great. Purpose doesn't just apply to individual. It also apply to organization. You
Yes.
often help organizations discover their ikigai. Can business really have a purpose beyond profit?
Yes, it has to have a purpose beyond profit. Oh my gosh, Phoebe. This is a question that a lot of business owners are struggling with right now in the current environment.
Yes.
Profit is king, right? We've heard the phrase cash is king. I still believe cash is king. I'm not going to deny that. But profit cannot be the reason for a business. And people say, well, what's the reason for a business? It's to serve a community. Mm-hmm. See, every business at its heart is solving a problem. So if you observe with your intuition, with your eyes, your five senses, with your ability to navigate a situation as a human being, if you observe a problem and you say, I can fix that.
Yes.
Then that has to be the reason for the business existing. That has to be the reason why. And then you have to figure out, if I solve this problem, can I do so profitably? And if the answer is yes to both of those questions, you have a business that will last indefinitely because it's focused on problem, not profit. Profit is the result of serving a community successfully. Mm-hmm. If you cannot make a profit serving a community successfully, there's one of two reasons why. It could be more, but I keep it binary. One, you are using up too much resource to solve that community's problem. Mm-hmm. Or two, you're not charging enough money from that community because they value the solution. That's why they've adopted it. Mm-hmm. So that means that you can charge more money to implement that solution. That doesn't mean gouge. Every business should endeavor for a fair profit. Yes. Fair doesn't mean everything that the market can bear, whatever the consumer will pay, that's what I want. Mm. We have to find that sweet spot as business owners that puts our pricing above our cost and below their threshold. See, modern business wants to keep the price at the threshold. That's what that dynamic pricing is from like Walmart and Kroger and some of the other companies that want to do it, Amazon included. But the fear I have is that the consumer, if every single business with which they interact is trying to take as much money as possible out of their pocket, they're going to feel like they're no longer a valued customer or a client, but rather a cog in a machine that is extracting wealth out of their pocket. So we have to, as business owners, we have to understand the concept of fair profit and give our consumers and our clients a chance to make a great decision that keeps them coming back to us because they see, hey, I made a little bit of money. Mm-hmm. You got a great great product or service at a great price, and we can continue this contract indefinitely.
Awesome. That's very good. So what are the signs that business has become disconnected from its mission?
So this is probably one of the easier ones that I see as a consultant. Mm-hmm. And that's when you're focused on all the measures, the KPIs and the charts and all that sort of stuff. And you forget to ask people what works. The point of sale employee has their finger on the pulse of the consumer, has the finger on the pulse of the customer or the client. That should always be the driving force. Get back to what does the customer feel? What motivates the client to want to keep coming back to me? I have to have that as the core reason for my business existing. No business exists without a paying customer. Yes. None. So we have to keep them focused. We'll keep our business focused on them. When we value process over customer, when we value KPIs and indicators and charts and all the things that go into management and successful management, mind you, but we subordinate the client experience for those numbers. In other words, I can tolerate so many disgruntled customers as long as I'm making X revenue. I want to drive down the number of dissatisfied clients to as close to zero as I can get it. And I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of my revenue, a little bit of my profit to get there. Yeah. Because what matters to me is a satisfied community first. Then I'll figure out how to make money second. Because if I keep those customers coming back, at some point I will make money.
Yes, awesome, great. So what changes when employees understand and connect with the company's purpose?
So every employee, in my opinion, and I've been a leader, so I was a squadron commander in the Air Force where I had over 500 people, multinational organization. I had small teams as well. I've led organizations where I connected my lowest ranking airmen to a national security objective, right? So as an Air Force leader, my job was to execute a mission,
Yes.
get that mission accomplished, and help the Air Force advance the agenda for the Secretary of Defense the president was set for us. I say that because in every organization, civilian, government, non-governmental organization, every single individual in that organization needs to know that their day's work connects to that organization's mission. And it should be a direct connection. I typed this email today. This directly affected how we advance toward our overall mission or goal. If you can't do that as an employee, then your boss, your leadership has not convinced you that your 8 hours, your 10 hours, your 6 hours is a worthy sacrifice for the compensation that they're giving you. Compensation is not financial exclusively. Compensation is also here in the heart of the individual, in the soul of the individual. I have to feel satisfied that what I do every day has meaning, has value outside of a dollar figure. And if I am in a situation where it's all about the dollars, exclusively about the dollars, you're going to find high turnover and dissatisfied employees.
That's very great. So let's go to the next question. You've built your work around the idea of the sustainable pursuit for success. What does that mean?
So this is something that I observed as a business coach, as a consultant. There are people who invest so much of their energy into their business, into their definition of success, whether it's artificial or intrinsic, that they get burned out. And this burnout is real. They lose their families through divorce. Their kids are estranged. They have zero pursuits outside of their work. And they've put in 12, 14, 16-hour days over years. Take no vacations. That burnout, when it comes, it's a price that must be paid. Your body will tell you to take a vacation. If you don't take a vacation, it will shut down. I have had clients that ended up in the hospital because they worked themselves into the hospital. The sustainable pursuit of success reframes the word success and goes back to, is that your intrinsic definition that motivates you? And then that pursuit is you always looking at, what am I doing today that gets me a little bit closer to that definition of success? And the sustainable part comes in when people recognize that they cannot build a life around 16-hour days. You just can't do it. You're going to have to figure out how to be more efficient with your time so that you can use your time for stuff outside of work. I start every consultation, personal consulting, personal coaching. I start every consultation with a question: how many hours per day are you setting aside for rest? It should be a deliberate number. I don't say sleep, I say rest, because rest includes sleep. But I need people to build a day around planned rest.
Yes.
And people look at me and they're like, what? And then when I walk through the math and I show them how to start with rest, build in time for the family, build in time for self-care, and then work, and I teach them how to be more efficient, that combination revitalizes themselves. They understand how to define success. They understand how to pursue it. And then they can do so indefinitely because they are in a sustainable mode of operation. But it takes a little bit of time for people to understand that they're either burned out or about to be burned out because they never took time to reframe their pursuit of success in ways that allowed them to stay sane. The last thing I'll say about this, Phoebe, when we talk about 16-hour days, I know because I've lived a life where I had to work 16 and 18-hour days. But I didn't do that for years at a time. I did that for a few weeks, maybe a month or two, when there was a surge. When I was in the military, there would be an exercise, a war effort, a deployment, and I work maybe 36 hours straight sometimes. But I would rest after that. There's got to be a harmony between work and life. I don't say balance anymore because balance implies giving it's a either or zero sum game, right?
Yeah.
But with harmony, you can strike many chords at once and find a way to emphasize certain notes over other notes while still hitting them all at once. You have to be conscious that you're just not going to live a life where 18-hour days, 16-hour days is normal and not pay a price with your heart, with your family, with your spirit, with your mental state. None of that's going to be, you're going to pay that bill one day, and it's not necessarily way off in the future.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So what's the difference between sustainable success and temporary achievement?
So when you are on the pursuit of the sustainable pursuit of success, what you're go back to our definition of success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, then you begin to see that I can achieve a milestone, like getting a degree, right? Maybe I want to pursue my PhD. That is a milestone. I am excited to write my dissertation and get to the point where I get the beautiful robe and the really cool cap and all that stuff. That's a milestone.
Yeah.
Milestones are part of your journey telling you, hey, you set a giant goal. You set a North Star. You set an ideal that is higher than you could ever possibly achieve. And then you have these milestones along the way. Getting your PhD would be a milestone. Maybe having a family would be another milestone. Maybe going from 5 figures to 6 figures in income would be your goal. Maybe in your business, getting to $1 million of revenue for the first year. Maybe getting to $1 million a month in the third year. All of those milestones are temporary. You see them, you get to them, and they go in the rear view mirror. Yes. But when you're on the sustainable pursuit of success, your North Star, you'll never get to it. You're guided by it, but you'll never get to it. And that is why you can get past the milestone and set new milestones. So you're always growing and progressing in this absolute standard of desirable efforts. I desire this next milestone. And what happens is you collect a bunch of stuff in the truck, right? The truck of your life, the things that you acquire along the way, those are wonderful. And they tell you they're evidence of your pursuit, but they are not why you did it. They're just evidence that you did it. And we want to get away from acquiring things as the goal to using that as evidence that I'm doing the things that I set out to do.
Okay, awesome. Let's go to the next question. So what are the biggest obstacles that prevent people from living in alignment with their Ikigai?
So the biggest obstacle, I'll be honest with you, is our society today values, let's take a look at Elon Musk, right? He's the world's first trillionaire on paper, right? And he owns 82% of SpaceX, which is what pushed him over the top. Before he was at 700 billion, and then this IPO went crazy, and now he's a trillionaire on paper. Now, we have glorified him. We've glorified Jeff Bezos. We've glorified all of these people who have made lots of money. But we haven't glorified people who are consistently happy, who are consistently thoughtful, consistently considerate, consistently humane, right? We kind of talk about Mother Teresa or Gandhi or Martin Luther King. We kind of revere them, but they're like over there, paragons. They're not the talk of the day. And quite frankly, in the modern context, you're not seeing people like that show up in our daily lexicon. You're not seeing someone who's the equivalent of a Martin Luther King in 2026 or a Mother Teresa or a Gandhi or any of those people. I mean, you can go back to Nelson Mandela. You can go back to some of that's kind of the most recent, some people revere certain presidents that way, but even that's not really the same thing. If you're really looking at how we glorify people, the ones that consistently show up are the financial geniuses. And that's the problem I see, is that we're not shown a spectrum of people that inspire us to those kinds of heights. the heights that are humanitarian, as well as financial, as well as athletic,
Yes.
as well as spiritual, as well as, like all of those human endeavors in art and culture and science and mathematics and business, all of those should be in our lexicon so that we can have people pursuing all of those things and not feel like they are missing out or doing something wrong with their time.
Yes, awesome. So how do you help someone who feels lost or uncertain about their purpose?
Oh, you want me to give away my secret sauce, Phoebe?
Oh my God, please.
How dare you?
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you a preview into this process.
Okay, that's fine.
Every single person that wants to work with me, I ask them to do one of three things. You can do all three, but you have to do at least one. One, they need to read my book,
Yeah.
Start with a Sparkle.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they need to take my course, Awaken to Embracing Creativity. Or three, they need to read my glossary. I have a glossary on my website.
Okay.
Those three things help me understand. They help the client, potential client, understand my language, because I'm going to speak in a language like I am during this conversation that might be slightly different. I want to baseline our understanding and our knowledge. I want to keep us speaking the same language. Out of that comes the challenge that I'm going to give them. And this is where the work is. The work is, why do you believe what you believe? Why did you choose the measures of success that you chose?
Yeah.
That why question is very difficult for a lot of people. What wakes you up in the morning is what I'm going to ask. What makes you want to leap out of bed and not hit the snooze button? And this challenge is best found in my workbook, Start with a Sparkle workbook, but it's part of how I begin to navigate that person, my client's way of knowing, way of being, way of interacting with themselves. Because if they're struggling, what am I going to do? I'm going to challenge the things that motivate them and see if we can come up with something that may be already in their past that would be a better motivator than what got them into the fix they're in the first place.
Okay, that's great. Okay, let's go to the next one. Can purpose evolve over different stages of life?
Absolutely. This is important, Phoebe. So in my book, Start with a Sparkle, I end it by saying that you're going to reach a pinnacle. If you do your job right, you're going to get to the pinnacle of success. That's Michael Jordan getting 3 championships in a row twice, right? Pinnacle of success. You can't ask for more than that. He could have done more if they had kept the Bulls together. Yeah. Kobe Bryant gets 5 championships, and in one of those championships, he puts an entire team on his back and takes them all the way through to the finals. LeBron James wins 3 championships, wins championships with 3 different teams. These are just people who've reached the pinnacle of success in their field. But let's take a look at what happened after basketball. For Kobe Bryant, he wins an Oscar for a documentary he did. For Michael Jordan, he's a billionaire based not on his basketball earnings, but on the shoe company he helped found and runs, Jordan Brand. And although LeBron James is not out of basketball yet, his outside of basketball endeavors have made him a billionaire and have produced movies and many, many different people who are in his camp that are successful in their own right. In other words, he's cultivated an environment where people can flourish. Yes. Now, there are others like them who have this ability to see themselves at the pinnacle of one thing, and then in the case of basketball, their bodies gave out, so they had to go to do something else. Yes. You and I don't have to wait until our bodies give out.
It's true.
We can reach the pinnacle of success as we define it, and then we can build another North Star. And we'll go through another valley because we're going to have to come out of the pinnacle of one endeavor, and then we're going to start climbing toward that new worthy ideal. That's what success is, right? Progressive realization of worthy ideal. And we'll hit another pinnacle. So you could want, like, a pinnacle for me was graduating from the Air Force Academy. Another pinnacle was successfully raising my children. Another pinnacle was starting my consulting business. Another pinnacle was writing my book. And you know, I've led 4 or 5 different careers in my adult life because I chose to have multiple pinnacles of success, and every single one of them fed the other. I didn't have to go as deep into the valley of learning because I could take, or as they say, portable, right? I
Yeah.
could port my lessons from one endeavor to another.
Yes.
So it's not just acceptable, I think it's required, unless you are one of those people who's like Warren Buffett, who's just, able to do what you do for until you're 99 years old. I don't think that everybody's going to be in that boat. I think most of us are going to find ourselves in a space where we have to reframe our effort and find a new pinnacle to pursue.
Awesome. That's very good. So, what role does courage play in pursuing a worthy ideal?
Oh man, without courage, you may as well call it a wrap. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is the challenge that so many people have to. Courage doesn't look like a battlefield, right? Courage can be a very private moment where you challenge your own paradigm and you say, I normally read nonfiction. I am a writer, right? I'm writing fiction books right now. I haven't published a fiction book yet, but my first fiction book will be published as soon as my illustrator finishes. He's doing fantastic work. I'm not rushing him, but I'm excited because I went from nonfiction to fiction.
Yes.
Right? It took courage for me to go from nonfiction to fiction. This is the concept that I want people to embrace, that courage doesn't look like throwing yourself on a grenade. It can just be a quiet internal decision to pivot towards something that fascinates you or scares you.
Yes.
I used to be deathly afraid of roller coasters.
Wow.
And then one day I went on the world's biggest, at the time, the world's biggest wooden roller coaster, and I got over my fear. That was courage.
Yes.
Courage is when you open a book and start learning about snakes when you're scared of snakes.
Ooh.
Courage is going to a foreign nation by yourself for the first time. Courage is you taking a paint and sip class when you don't consider yourself an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Courage is so small. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be tiny.
Yeah.
And if we have courage, success breeds success. That's something I teach my clients. Success breeds success. So if I can get you to show a little bit of courage,
yes,
a little bit more courage will come forth in another way, and then a little bit more. So we don't have to have these grand gestures when we can have just a little bit of courage for something.
Awesome. That's very great. Today's leaders are also navigating an era of unprecedented technology change. As AI transforms industry, how important does purpose become in leadership?
So every leader should be motivated by something other than money.
Yes.
They have to have something deep in them. In my case, I love seeing my teams flourish. So my teams are known as the highly creative teams. When I'm a team lead, project manager, program manager, my teams are always considered highly creative because I know how to get out of the way.
Yes.
I always tell my teams, look, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm going to guide you. Here's the big picture. Here's the things that we need to produce along the way. Go. And they come up with they're coming at me, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I'm like, that's great. No, not that, but this is wonderful. And before we're done, we've discarded and accepted dozens of ideas.
Yes.
The best of which turn into the products and the services that our clients absolutely rave about. Yeah. Because I gave them enough leeway to be creative and enough guidance to stay on task.
Awesome.
That is my purpose.
Awesome.
And that kind of leadership is where people are inspired and they stay late when they don't have to, and they come early when they don't have to, and they call and make arrangements so that they can, work from home when they would not ordinarily work from home. All of those things are important as leaders because they help define purpose. Your job as a leader is to know who you are, mm-hmm. know what your team needs, and then know what your desired output will be, and marry those up in a way that is unique to you. That uniqueness is your calling card, and that is where a business leader can really shine, even if the external inputs, AI or economic conditions or tariffs, may place a lot of stress on you, but that's where you shine, when you understand yourself, your team, and the mission that you have, and marry those up in a very humane fashion. It doesn't always have to be about the dollar bill.
Okay, that's fine. What human quality becomes more valuable as automation increases?
Oh, there's three, right? So I have taught, if you go on my LinkedIn, and as your listeners and viewers go on my LinkedIn, and Emille Bryant on LinkedIn, you will find articles that I've written about this very thing. And in a nutshell, these three things are things that the human being can do that the machine likely never will.
Mm.
First is observation. I can walk into a room. If I hear a baby crying, I can ask, why is that baby crying? Is the room hot, cold, uncomfortable, bright, dark? Is there a play space, a changing space? I can ask the question, why is this baby crying? That observation informs the next thing that humans do, which is ideation. I can solve this problem. I know what to do. I have the ability to either intuit or build or see a solution. I can figure this out.
Yes.
So we observe, we ideate, and the last thing that humans do that we're doing very well is we innovate, right? The machine can iterate 1,000 times. And so iteration and innovation go hand in hand.
Yes.
And I tell people that humans can prompt iteration in order to create innovation.
Yes.
This prompt is important because the human being, once they prompt the machine, machine can do the tedious work of 1,000 different simulations, but only the human being knows which simulation is the best outcome for what I observed and I tried to ideate in the first place. So observation, ideation, and innovation/iteration go together. And that will always be the human being. We can set goals. The machine cannot set goals. It can recommend goals, but it can't set goals. The machine cannot feel what a human being feels when they buy their first PlayStation 5. Right? What kind of satisfaction does a human being derive by giving away $1,000? Ask Mr. Beast how this process works, because it's counterintuitive that he would be a billionaire who started his career on YouTube by giving away money. It's counterintuitive, but it certainly worked. And that is something that we need to see that maintains the humanity throughout the process of building our businesses and integrating artificial intelligence into them.
Awesome. So let's go to the next stage of the question. What transformation gives you the greatest fulfillment when it comes to working with leaders?
Oh man, you know what? When I see a leader decide that their team's individuality is more important than any single goal they may have set for them, I will never minimize the power or importance of a goal. But the only way you can sustain a long-term business success is when your team's humanity is being properly cultivated and properly celebrated. And so when I see a leader go from the bottom line to their team's humanity, I guarantee you their bottom line will always go up. I have never had a leader who focused on their team's humanity and totally forgot, oh my gosh, totally forgot how to make money.
Yes, that's very good. So what have you learned about human potential through this work?
What I've learned,
Yes.
quite frankly, is that our potential as individuals is unlimited.
Yes.
One of the things that I did when I was a squadron commander in the Air Force was I placed people where they flourished, not where their job titles told me to place them, right? So you have training that you get in the military for your job. You're a metal worker, you're a crew chief, you're a munitions loader, you're an admin specialist. That's great. And I'm glad we have that training for those people.
Yes.
But if I see someone flourish in a job that is not necessarily what they're trained at, if I can spare the time, I will put them in that job full time.
Yes.
And what I did when I did that, my squadron actually ran better. Even though we were shorthanded, my unit was able to flourish because I found people who were flourishing in the jobs that I needed them to flourish in.
Yeah.
They just were better at it.
Yes.
So I could take someone who's mediocre in one space and excellent in another space.
Yes.
And I did that consistently. And after a couple of years, my unit ran on its own. I had to do I told my team, I said, if you need my signature, I've done my job. Because that's the only thing I should ever have to give you is my signature.
Yes.
And I'm out. You guys can manage without me. Yes. And that was true because I saw people as talented individuals who needed to be placed in the proper space.
Awesome. That's very good. So how do you want your work to impact future generation?
You know what? If my book, which is in the Library of Congress, if 100 years from now, people stumble across my book in the Library of Congress, I hope the concept of IKIGAI bleeds forth. That someone in that generation says, this is a powerful way to see my presence on earth.
Yeah.
Because if people recognize that their capacity for contribution to this society, to the world at large, comes through their ability to be themselves, I will have impacted future generations in untold ways. So that's what I want. I want people to respect the fact that they have a purpose, they have a reason for being, a reason to wake up every morning, and that if they haven't discovered it, they have the opportunity to discover it. And if they have discovered it, that they are doing their part to change the world for the better.
All right, that's great. So what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
So if people remember me as someone who brought out the best in those he loved and served, and he was someone who could be loved and served,
yes,
I will have built the most beautiful legacy I could ever ask for, right? My personal mission statement is to love and serve and to be loved and to be served.
Yes.
And I added that second part because I was giving so much. I wasn't even burned out, but I noticed that I was not open to receive. So I had to transform my personal view of myself so that I could be loved and served. I could be received and be grateful and be happy and not feel guilty or feel like I had to reciprocate.
Yeah.
I now understand better than ever that part of my presence on earth is to allow others to give me what their gift is asking them to give me. And that took a lot for me to learn. But if I leave a legacy, that's it.
Okay, awesome. So let's zero in on your practice, IKIGAI LLC. So what is working well for you right now and what is being frustrating?
So what works for me right now is this conversation and conversations like this. All of my marketing is referral or word of mouth. I don't do any formal marketing. I've tried lots of stuff. So this opportunity to have this discussion with you and your audience it's what works for me in terms of marketing. It's something that I didn't know I needed until I started doing more of them. And now it's like indispensable. As a practitioner, as a coach, as a consultant, what works is my presence, right? That's why these long form conversations are so important, because when I get into your space and I can sit and hear and feel and learn and grow and know and understand, it's goofy and abstract and squishy. That's the source of data that I need most, because everybody's got charts and graphs and management artifacts, but those are useless without the ambient energy and the ambient knowledge that comes from being in a space, right? I need that in order to really understand how to connect the dots.
Awesome.
And what doesn't work for me, honestly, is people who want to go fast because they want more profit. So I have to turn down clients who want me to come in and fix their revenue problem. I'm like, well, if I'm going to fix your revenue problem, I got to figure out why you have a revenue problem. And then I got to figure out if revenue is actually your problem.
Yeah.
You say you want more revenue, but you're treating your team like trash.
Yeah.
So I can't marry up your desire for more revenue if you're not willing to confront yourself about how you're treating your team.
Yes.
Now, if you want to talk about how you're acting as a leader,
Yes.
we can have a discussion. But if you're not, then I'm not your consultant, and I'm willing to walk away from those engagements. And I've passed up money because I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by opportunity to make an impact with people that I choose to serve.
Yes.
And people who want a fast, get rich quick, get it done now kind of mentality, that doesn't work for me, and I'm not going to participate in.
Awesome. That's very good. So what's your plan for the next 1 year in Ikigai LL?
Woo, boy, you asked a hard question. So seriously,
Yeah.
later this year, I'm going to go back into professional speaking. That is my job. Because of these long form conversations, I realized that the best way for me to build my business is to speak more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the market for an agent, and I'll say that to your viewers because I'm lazy. And it's not because I don't want to do the work, it's because I know that if I do the work, I'll be distracted. So here's the thing. In speaking, which will generate revenue, I know that I'm not good at marketing myself. If Phoebe asked me to market her, I'm excellent at it.
Okay.
But I'm not excellent at marketing myself. So whoever works with me, they're going to be an agent. They tell me where to be. I show up. I do my amazing stuff. I leave. We get paid. If I'm marketing, it's not working. Now, if my agent asked me to do a video or write an article or any of that kind of stuff, I'm happy to do that. But the future for Go Ikigai LLC is building a presence where I'm speaking more, and that will lead to more consulting gigs. I don't need a lot of money, but I do need a lot of opportunity to work with people. So I'm looking forward to speaking more in the latter part of this year in order to facilitate growing the business organically, where people recognize, hey, I've heard him speak. I know what he's made of. I understand his philosophy. He's someone that I believe can help me flourish. And whatever comes out of that, I'll be grateful. But speaking is is what's next for the company.
Okay, do you have any idea how that plan will come into fruition?
No, I don't. I am letting all the forces, the business forces at play,
Okay.
dictate how that manifests. These conversations are part of it. I know that by planting the seed with you, Phoebe, and others, that the business forces at play will figure out how to fill the need that I have established, right? So one of my favorite movies is Robots. And in that movie, there's a phrase called see a need, fill a need, right? So my job is to create a need that another person can fill. So that's what I'm doing.
All right. So if you had a magic wand to fix just one thing that is slowing you down or holding you back, what would that one thing be?
Ooh, the magic wand. Okay, so the magic wand. If I could wave the magic wand, it would be to translate so many of these ideas into lines of business.
Wow.
I built out an entire framework before AI that walks a business owner or team leader through project management in a way that is so unique.
Yeah.
People, when I show it to them, it's called Kablam. It's the Creator's Advantage in Business, Legal, Administrative, and Logistics, right? So I built this because I was like, I needed a framework for me. And I heard it in a lot of people that I worked with. So I built it up, and it's the only fully built out idea that I like, because it took me months to figure out how to do it all. If I could wave a magic wand, I probably would have another half dozen systems that would be fully developed out of my head and on paper. Because they're all lucrative. They're all needs that business have. I've seen it. I physically do not have enough time to run them to ground. And I'm not using AI because AI is not my friend right now. But once I get my local AI on board my computer and start using it more consistently, I may be able to pump out more. But right now, that's it. Okay. Turn these ideas into systems that can be sold or marketed or licensed.
Okay, that's fine. And do you have any plan how you want to go about it? Turning them ideas. I mean, okay, what I'm trying to let me rephrase it. Are you thinking about webinar or having books? blueprint of, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say. How do you want to package it? Let me put it that way. How do you want to, do you have an idea of how you want to package those?
No,
Yes.
my job is to ideate, create. I'm the creator in the group. I'm not the marketer in the group. I'm not the sales guy in the group. I'm the creator. This brain works brilliantly when it is inundated with data,
Mm-hmm.
and it ciphers out that data in real time and turns it into something very useful.
Yeah.
Capturing that has been the bane of my existence because I can do it in real time, but I can't capture it. And then the follow-on process of turning that into a system or a line
Yeah.
of business,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not capable of doing that.
Okay.
So I'm not looking to package. I'm not looking for help. I know what I can do.
Yes.
I know what I wish I could do more of. And until I have my locally sourced second brain, I'm willing to accept that a lot of what I think about is not going to come to fruition. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
For today. Perhaps tomorrow or sometime in the future, I'll get restless. But the thing is, every time I build a system, the time I invest in building that system is time away from some of the other endeavors I love to pursue.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, that's great. Emily, after helping so many business leaders and organizations reconnect with their purpose, what do you believe is the most important lesson people need to learn about success?
That you better define it for yourself, or someone else's definition will serve them before you get served yourself.
That's awesome.
We are all in service to someone else's definition. That's why there are billionaires and trillionaires in our society, because they convinced all of us that it's in our interest to make them that rich. I refuse to believe that my effort should result in their success exclusively. I have no problem helping Phoebe become a millionaire by doing this podcast. I want you to succeed, but I'm also succeeding because I am part of that success now. It's no longer this big gap between me and someone else. And that's the thing that I want people to remember. If you don't have a personal definition of success, you are literally contributing your time, your energy, your attention, and your money to someone else's.
Awesome. That's very great. So if every leader and entrepreneur listening today wake up tomorrow fully aligned with their IKIGAI, how will their businesses, relationship, and community change?
They would flourish. When you are really in line with who you are and why you wake up every morning, it's hard not to be happy. It's hard not to be generous, magnanimous, philanthropic. You're just going to figure out how to give yourself, your time, your money, your attention, your energy away, because that it's an exuberance that comes out of one when you are aligned in your purpose. I remember when I was in Japan, people who couldn't speak English were trying to teach me. When I showed any interest in their ikigai, they were excited to teach me. Whether it was archery or bonsai trees or karate, it was like, you want to learn? They bring me in. They show me what, and I was in love with how much they wanted to give me. And they didn't want money. They just wanted to share for the joy of it. When you are aligned with your ikigai, it's really hard to be sour. It's really hard to be stingy. It's really hard to be selfish. It's really hard to be angry. But that's what happens when people really align. Their personal life flourishes, their business flourishes. There's just so many positive. It's very hard. And the Japanese have done some deep research on this. And they found out that your life is longer, the quality of life is higher, the people around you are happier with you, you're happier with them, all because you're aligned with your ikigai. So I have yet to find a true downside to people who are in line with their ikigai.
Awesome. Emily, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and reminding us that success is about far more than achievement. One of the biggest takeaways from today's conversation is that purpose isn't something we find once and hold on to forever. It's something we continually reconnect with.
Yes.
In a world obsessed with productivity, performance, and growth, perhaps the most important question isn't, what do I have to achieve? But rather, why am I doing it?
Yes.
Yes. Because when purpose becomes clearer, decision becomes easier, leadership becomes more authentic, and success becomes sustainable. So to everyone listening to our podcast, I believe you all enjoyed it like I do. What Emily have just shared today is really an eye-opening, and it's something we need every day of our lives. And I know that you will all reach for more. Because again, at the end of the podcast, which we're about to close now, I'm going to leave Emily's description on the description box by the time we post the video. So until then, live with purpose, live with intention, and remember, success isn't about reaching a destination. It's about making progress towards a worthy ideal. I'm Phoebe. I'm your podcast host. Thank you very much. And thank you, Emily, for your time. And I'm very grateful to meet you again. And your energy, I said, Lord, is uplifting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phoebe. It's a pleasure. And my best to you and your audience. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye bye, sir. Thank you.